It's 6 p.m. and I call this meeting of the Miami Township Board of Trustees to order on Tuesday, May 7th, 2024. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Mr. Matthews, will you please call the roll?
Don Culp. Mr. Culp.
Here.
Mr. Posey.
Here.
Mr. Morse is excused tonight. I believe he's at his California residence. Reading of casualties, Chief Stegelmeyer, will you please proceed with the reading of casualties?
Good evening, Board. The following list is of first responder casualties for the period of April the 3rd through May the 7th of 2024. Deputy Sheriff Jamaris Young, the Montgomery County Sheriff's Office in Alabama. End of watch Friday, April 5th, 2024. Correctional Sergeant Andrew Fott, Illinois Department of Corrections in Illinois. End of watch April 8th, 2024. Lieutenant Rodney Osborne, the Ohio Department of Rehabilitation and Correction here in Ohio. End of watch April 9th, 2024. Special Agent Derek Baer, the United States Postal Service, Office of Inspector General of the United States Government. End of watch April 9th, 2024. Police Officer Ross Bartlett of the Cicero Police Department in Nebraska. End of watch is April the 12th, 2024. Police Officer Joseph McKenna, the Memphis Police Department in Tennessee. End of watch April 12th, 2024. Police Officer Michael E. Jensen, the Syracuse Police Department, New York. End of watch April 14th, 2024. Lieutenant Michael Husak from the Onondaga Police Department in New York. End of watch is April 14th, 2024. Deputy Sheriff Fred Fizzler, the Hendricks County Sheriff's Office in Indiana. End of watch April 16th, 2024. Deputy Sheriff Tobin Bolter from the Ada County Sheriff's Office in Idaho. End of watch April 21st, 2024. Police Officer Luis Huska, the Chicago Police Department in Illinois. End of watch April 21st, 2024. Investigator John Hampton III, Harris County Sheriff's Office, Texas. End of watch April 23rd, 2024. Police Officer Kyle Hicks, the Corpus Christi Police Department in Texas. End of watch April 24th, 2024. Sergeant Ian Taylor from the Billerica Police Department in Massachusetts. End of watch April 26th, 2024. Police Officer Russell Cruxton from the Dubois Police Department in Louisiana. End of watch April 27th, 2024. Police Officer Joshua Iyer, from the Charlotte Mecklenburg Police Department in North Carolina. End of watch April 29th, 2024. Investigator Samuel Pulicha from the North Carolina Department of Adult Correction in North Carolina. End of watch April 29th, 2024. Investigator William Elliott, the North Carolina Department of Adult Correction in North Carolina. End of watch April 29th, 2024. And Deputy United States Marshal Thomas Weeks from the United States Department of Justice, United States Marshal Service. End of watch April 29th, 2024.
Please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. We have a new audiovisual system installed, so it's going to take some time to get used to it. Maybe I'm too close to it, too far away. You guys will have to let me know. And I'm sure there's some adjustments that we'll have to make as we go forward. Are there any? There are no guests tonight, so that I know of. Do we have any guests? So we'll move forward with the consent agenda. Are there any questions on the consent agenda? I'll make a motion to approve this consent agenda.
Second.
And thanks. Mr. Culp.
Aye.
Mr. Posey.
Aye.
We'll move on to new business. So Chief Stegelmeyer, you have a motion for a liquor permit and resolution 30-2024, I believe.
Yes, sir. Good evening again, Board. The first thing before you will be the approval for a new liquor permit that is coming from the Ohio Department of Liquor Control. This permit is from the applicant of the Taste of Belgium, Austin Landing LLC, doing business as Taste of Belgium, located at 10267 Penny Lane. This is a new permit, and it's for a D5J, which is allowing them to be in the Dora district. And we find no reason to contest this at this time, and I'll be glad to answer any questions regarding that liquor permit.
Any questions?
Okay, Resolution 3024. This is a resolution asking for the appropriation of police funds to be moved from personnel expense to other expense to purchase safety gear for my officers. Specifically, what we're asking for is to upgrade some ballistic helmets that we've had that have been needed to replace for about 20 years. The helmets that we currently have were purchased about 25 years ago. And one of the things I noted that I identified about 4 years ago is that those needed to be upgraded. Those are like bulletproof vests, that their ballistic abilities tend to just to disintegrate over time, and after 20 years, these are about time to go away. The officers use those in a variety of situations. Most obviously, we'd use those in any type of civil unrest situations, but also for active shooter situations. You know, the more ballistic coverage I have for my officers, the better off it is, and it is, again, for officer safety. And I'd be glad to answer any questions for that.
So we're replacing old ones?
Yes, sir, we are.
And how are those disposed of?
Well, there's two ways we can do. We put them on gov deals to see if any other law enforcement agency would like them. Due to their age, probably nobody will take those, so we'll end up destroying them.
Okay. Any questions? Ms. Bogner, you have resolutions 31-2024 and 32-2024.
Thank you, Board. Finance has two resolutions to bring forth tonight for your consideration. The first item on the agenda for Finance is Resolution 31-2024, which is to increase the appropriation in the TIF funds, specifically the Austin East TIF and Austin West TIF, Funds 251 and 252. Miami Township and Miamisburg City Schools have a compensation agreement which provides for a kicker payment when all three jurisdictions, Miami Township, Miamisburg, and Springboro, have reached specific debt service milestones. During budget season, Finance did put the budget in for a kicker payment. However, the amount needed was higher than expected due to better than anticipated actual collections from the pilots the township has in place. The second item on the agenda from Finance is Resolution 32-2024 is to execute a purchase agreement for the replacement of the digital postage meter in the administration building. The United States Postal Service is mandating new meter technology standards effective 6/30/2024 called IMI, Intelligent Mail Indicia. The postage machine in the administration building is not compliant. The previous administration building postage machines have lasted approximately 7 to 10 years each, and we have no reason to believe this new machine will not last that long as well. Therefore, Finance is recommending that we purchase the new postage machine at a cost of approximately $3,200 with an annual service contract of $333 per month.
Okay. Any questions? Thank you. This is time for public comments. This portion of the meeting is where residents of Miami Township are invited to share their thoughts with the board. Your comments are valued and will be taken into careful consideration. The board will not engage in dialogue at this time, and presentations are limited to 5 minutes each. Is there anyone that would like to address the board?
We have one request from Ms. Deborah Bowen.
So who'd you call, Bob?
Deborah Bowen.
Okay.
Aye.
Okay.
Bowen, sorry.
Please state your name and your address.
Yes, Deborah Bowen, 9800 Islesworth Lane, Miamisburg, Ohio. This is my second time here since this year concerning the camper issues in the villages of Miami. Nothing's being done. I've approached Isaiah and I've called, text, and they keep saying they're working on it, but there's only 2 campers left, and they're not moving. And my reason is that I have a camper myself, and I have a storage center, and I have 3 other neighbors that we all camp together, and they store their campers too. I do not feel that this is fair to the community for these two people for 6 months to still have these campers in our area.
Bob, do you have another? Mr. Matthews?
Yeah, Mr. Matt Turton, please come up, sir.
Good evening, Board. Matthew Turton, 6600 Jamaica Road, Miami Township. Sorry about the hurry. I was a little late. Apologize. I'd like to thank the Board of Trustees. It's been a while since I've been here. I apologize for that and my tardiness on thanking the Board and the Township, Alex Carlson, Chief Stegelmeyer, and Miami Township Police Department for their due diligence in the situation that we've had over in our area. I hope and believe that it's resolved. I hope that going forward it is stopped and that businesses will not be authorized to set foot into agricultural areas. Kudos to the township for all of their work in this process. I greatly appreciate it, and I know the community of individuals over there who are ag-based appreciate the work that you've done. The other item that is still on the docket with our area over there is the continued commercial parking of commercial vehicles, tractor trailers on agricultural land that are not for agriculture. I've submitted pictures to the township again of vehicles that are not agriculture. They are in commercial over-the-road trucks that are parking in a overnight, over a couple days, over weekend parking lot in the property contiguous to ours. I will be in touch with Alex and whomever needs to be looking into this more than what maybe has been. There's been individuals parking there commercially. And then third is the potential, which I believe is a detriment to livestock that is on the property next to us. As I drove out my driveway tonight, again, the animals that are housed in the barn next to us the stench is quite pungent. They have anywhere from 15 to 25, maybe 35 animals in a contained area that is not healthy for the animals. And what is happening to them as they leave that facility is my question of legality, of if it is industrial in mind for sales of processed animals that is not legal or not certified. So as we move forward in looking into these two situations next door, I would appreciate the same diligence as what's occurred in the last event with the other facility. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there another speaker tonight?
I'm here because my name is Clarence K. Williams. I live at 894 Lancelot Drive. I'm here because I've been having a whole lot of misconduct with the Miami Township officers. I have an officer that is out for me because I had to go and report him with his misconduct. He come to my wife's home one day and I was over there and he gonna say to me, you went and reported me. I said, yes, I did because of your misconduct. He says, well, I'll take care of that. Officer Hessler, Sergeant Siney, Steinmeier, they don't like me because I like to speak my mind and let them know exactly what's right and what's wrong. So I'm feeling like I'm being treated unfair. Just Friday on Law Day, Officer Hessler was going down 741, and I was coming up. He made a point to get behind a car that was behind me, merged in front of that car, got behind me, stopped me, and gave me a ticket. That was on Law Day, May the 1st. And I'm trying to say to myself, what does he have out for me? I mean, is he a racist? I don't know. I don't know. That's the way he make himself seems. Because since I've been out here, the whole township, they all against me. And that's the honest God truth. I don't drink alcohol, beer, wine, liquor, nothing. I don't do none of the above. I have a child that's 9 years old with Down syndrome. They take that lightly. It's a guy over in Lionsgate apartment, where I used to live at. They forced me out of there. They had my wife to take me off the lease. So I'm homeless. Then I had to find me a place. I find me a place, I'll go back over there. People over there starting stuff with me. Officer Hessler had Maggie Woods, the lady over there used to be the manager over there, Maggie Woods, to trespass me. And they going back and forth. I called them, I asked them, why would y'all trespass me? And they say, we didn't do that, the office did it. I called the office, why would y'all trespass me? They have no legitimate excuse whatsoever why they done it. Oh, you over there messing with people. Okay, why ain't these people calling the police on me, getting a report on me before you guys come out here and listen to what they're saying? Enough is enough. I have this ticket right here, like I said. He pulled me over. I asked him to see the the radar. He says to me, I don't have to show you nothing. So like I told him, he says to me, you was doing 69 coming up the hill. I said, no way. And it's a car in front of me and a car behind me. And then you merge behind me and give me a ticket, say I'm doing 69. It's no way I was doing 69. I know I wasn't. I just wasn't. So now I have to go and fight this in court May the 14th, a ticket I don't have. All I get is disability. I'm trying to find me a job right now. So I don't know what's going on with them, but I wish they would just lay off of me, seriously, because I'm done. I had a stroke last year, worrying about what they might be doing to me or what they might try to do to me. I had a stroke last year, and by God, brought me back out of it. I have a good God. That's why I'm here today. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, is there anyone else wishing to address the board tonight?
Mr. President, may I ask Clarence to repeat his last name, please, sir? Williams. And I have 898, but I've missed this. I'm sorry. 894 Lancelot. Okay. Thank you. 894 Lancelot, Apartment D. Thank you. D as in Dave. Yeah, thank you.
So I moved to close the public comments portion and move to the consideration of votes and resolutions. I'll make a motion to approve the liquor permit for the Taste of Belgium at Austin Landing. Is there a second?
I will second.
Thank you.
Aye.
Mr. Cole? Mr. Posey?
Aye.
I'll make a motion that we approve Resolution 30-2024, a resolution to approve an amended appropriation of police department funds for 2024.
I will second.
Mr. Culp?
Aye.
Mr. Posey?
Aye.
I'll make a motion. I just read 30, right? So it's 31 now. Yes. Motion to approve Resolution 31-2024, a resolution to approve amendments to the appropriation of funds for 2024. Is there a second?
I will second.
Mr. Culp?
Aye.
Mr. Posey?
Aye.
And I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 32-2024, a resolution to authorize the Township Administrator to execute a purchase agreement for a digital postage meter. Can I get a second?
I will second.
Mr. Culp?
Aye.
Mr. Posey?
Aye.
We have no public hearings tonight, so we'll go directly into the department head comments. Chief Stegelmeyer.
I have none, thank you.
Good evening, Board. I do have two quick comments. Number one, we are doing our annual fishing derby again on June 1st. We do have information on the website, and we it was such a success last year to see all the smiling kids, everybody catching fish was very rewarding. So please register at Public Works at miamitownship.com. Again, our information is on the website. And the second item I would like to bring to the board is a small employee recognition. Our park supervisor, Rex Gore, he went through a rigorous multi-day training course through a nationally accredited program. It's the National Recreation Park Association to become a certified playground safety inspector. Now, I know that we're getting ready to talk about the parks master plan, but just wanted to mention this because this reinforces to the community that we do take park safety very serious, and it'll also allow us, with his certification, pursue grant opportunities and should be scored favorably. So again, I just wanted to kind of give a shout out to Mr. Gore and thank him for his continued endeavor on training and benefit the township.
Very well. Congratulations, Rex. Thanks for the hard work. Mr. Carlson.
Yes, just quickly, Board. January of this year, Miami Township applied for systemic safety funds for an off-street bikeway multi-use shared path on 741. This is a area of pretty large concern for the township, a majorly trafficked thoroughfare in our community that has no off-street walkability, pathway, connectivity, anything. From Ferndown Drive all the way up to Lyons Road. So that is an area that crosses underneath 675. It's one of the only areas in Miami Township, other than on the other side of 75, where you can bridge from the north to the south side of our community off-street. So we put an application in for systemic safety funds. We had a study done that showed that there was an existing amount, a large amount of foot traffic in this area. Again, people that are sort of taking their lives into their hands, walking on the side of a shoulder of a 5-lane state route. So again, reiterating that this is an important connection. We were notified today, or yesterday, and then publicly announced today by ODOT that of the $1.3 million project, $1.2 million were funded. So 90% of the project cost, leaving a little under $130,000 to complete $1.3 million of work. So this is the first leg of a larger connection from Ferndown. So this is from Newmark to Ferndown. The next will be from Newmark to Lyons Road. That will be the more difficult phase, but this first phase certainly has its own challenges. So we were really excited to get that news and look forward to starting the project. Engineering should be bidded out later this fall. Construction completed either late 2028 or early 2029, but we'll continue to update the board as we move through that process.
All right. Sounds great. Ms. Bogner.
I have nothing, sir.
Okay. Time for the elected officials' comments. Mr. Matthews. I'm sorry.
Nothing tonight, Mr. President.
I just wanted to congratulate again Mission Barbecue. A number of us were at their ribbon cutting and grand opening today. I want to thank the police department and Miami Valley Fire District as well for their staff being in attendance. We're glad to see the investment and redevelopment of one of our previously vacant retail sites there. So along with that, I would also like to congratulate Rex Gore on that recent accomplishment. He is very dedicated in preserving and maintaining our park system, and we appreciate all the efforts he's made to continue to improve his professional credentials along those lines. So thank you, Rex.
All right, now to the elected officials' comments. Mr. Matthews. Any comments, any elected official comments?
Oh, no comments.
Okay.
Thank you.
And Mr. Posey?
I have none.
I have no comments either. We're going to transition into a work session now. So I'll make a motion that we enter into a work session to discuss the Miami Township Parks and Trails Plan. Can I get a second?
Mr. Culp?
Aye.
Mr. Posey?
Where are we having the work session at? Is it right here? Okay.
Good evening, Board. Very excited to bring before you tonight the review of the concepts from the final draft plan of the Miami Township Parks and Trails Plan. This plan was initiated December of 2022, so it's been a lengthy process, but between some staffing challenges and other things with the arrival of new staff, we have made great progress on this plan working with the Public Works Department. So the primary objective of this work session is, again, to review quickly the process of how we got to where we are today, the inventorying and public planning process, but then primarily we'll be focusing on the goals, findings, and recommendations of this Parks and Trails plan. So quickly, this plan broadly was broken into 3 large phases. We had a discovery phase, spending a lot of time in our parks, trying to figure out what's there, what condition it's in, what really is needing work on the ground, physically looking at that. We then moved to a planning process phase where we brought some of these discoveries to the public through surveys, workshops, other opportunities to engage, to figure out, given this, where do we want to be? And then finally, the planning and action phase where we are today, a long list of goals and recommendations. A lot of them are almost amendments to the plan itself. There is more work to be done, but the primary goal of this plan is to be sure that township staff, all departments, and the elected officials are all on the same page for how we would like to progress our park system and where we would like to be in 5, 10, 15, 20 years. So quickly, we'll go through just a summary of some of the conditions that we inventoried that ultimately play into the planning process and the ultimate goals of the plan. So first and foremost, again, we went into the parks. We tried to find what do we have in every park and how's it holding up. So this was the chart that was devised. Every item in every park was given a condition, good, fair, or poor. Good generally being it's fine. It's working very well. It does not need replaced. Fair, working order, probably could use repair or consideration for replacement. And then poor, which is an immediate replacement, is due. So you will see there are several items, and quite a few that are yellow, a lot that are red, and only a couple that we felt were really in true good condition. So as we move through this plan, we want to keep kind of coming back to this to say, hopefully in 5, 10 years we look at this chart and it's a lot of blue. That's the goal. Another item that we inventoried was the trails component of the Parks and Trails plan. We really felt that a lot of parks plans focus just on the actual green space, but oftentimes paths are like really skinny, long parks for people. That's how they get out and engage in the community, and that may be their preferred mode of recreation. So we wanted to bring trails to the forefront of this parks plan as well. So we cataloged all of our off-street and some of our on-street sharrows, like in the Newmark area, on-street bike lanes, but primarily off-street, so sidewalks and trails shown here on this plan. And then the second study was analyzing our existing gaps in that network. So we had then identified a couple of key target areas, but there are certainly some larger systemic issues that we need to address. We also cataloged our barriers to park accessibility. One of the major items of this plan is looking at how people of all ages and abilities get to our parks and enjoy our parks. Sort of a spoiler alert here, we'll find a lot of our parks are not compliant with the American Disabilities Act or other national park standards. So from a equity standpoint, certainly we need to move forward, but also from a legal standpoint, as we're reviewing American with Disabilities Act, any time a park is built or altered, they must comply with certain standards for accessible design. So a common theme throughout this plan is how to improve accessibility to get to our parks, but once you're there, how do you actually interact with equipment and amenities? We've applied a 10-minute walk standard to this plan. We'll get more into recommendations in a minute, but using national guidelines like that from the National Recreation and Parks Association, we took a look at, again, that accessibility component. How are people getting to our parks? And how do we make it so people can choose to walk to a park if they want to and not have to drive to a park? So looking at a 10-minute walk standard, 10-minute walk was a good metric that was used by Park Association. As soon as you get past 10 minutes, the likelihood of somebody wanting to drive to a park significantly drops off if they can't walk there in 10 minutes. So we took a look. 63% of our homes are considered to have, under this metric, adequate park access. So one of the goals later in the plan will be how to increase that and improve people's ability to get to our parks. Park staffing and operation was one of the largest categories here as well. As we look at a national scale, we tried to find metrics again. National Recreation and Parks Association, NERPA was a great baseline to compare how we stack up. So John, I'll turn this over to you if you want to talk a little bit about park ops.
Yeah, just for a brief moment. Our park operations, we maintain government parcels, building complexes, road frontages, and other township-owned properties. Mowing consists of almost 300 full acres throughout the township, and sometimes it can take slightly over 2 weeks to get it, depending on the mowing, the grow season and how fast everything is coming up. But to add to the list of things that are not conducted as frequently as we would like is grant research and writing, park layout and design standards, aesthetic improvements, whether, you'll see a little bit later, the addition of wildflower patches or more tree reforestation, amenity improvements. These are just some of the things that we don't get to as frequently. We do safety inspections, but now that we have an accredited safety inspector, we can really step up our game there. And also just community engagement with our parks. We kind of fall behind the curve. And that typically, I'll show here in this, this plan, is that we have 3 full-time employees and we have 2 seasonal for about 6 months out of the year. And you can see from this National Recreation and Parks Association that the national standard is 8.9 full-time employees per 10,000 residents. And we have 30,000 residents, and we're at 1.6 per this metric. So we are significantly, I would say, overachieving with our operation comparative to how much we're mowing. But certainly we would like to drastically improve. Would also just like to say that I genuinely appreciate Alex and his staff for collecting this data and show this metric, which provides context on how we stack up against the national metrics. So again, we're looking forward to completing this plan so we can drastically improve our park system. I'll turn it back over to Alex.
As we move into the existing inventory of some of our financing of our parks, one item certainly that we have kind of come back to many times throughout this process is that operating expenses per capita metric. Again, looking at NERPA, $93 is roughly per citizen how much communities are spending on their park system, and we're at $11.97. Not to say that $93 is the right answer, not to say less or more is the right answer, but again, to show
So
where
what do
we...
you think Washington Township spends, for example?
So we had, actually, let me share this.
While he's pulling that up, I'll say we not only did we use this National Accredited Association for comparison, we went out and looked at what Washington Centerville Park District, City of Miamisburg, we looked at other townships, Deerfield Township, Colerain Township, as comparison. So we are on the lower end of the spectrum, which is okay, but it just shows you where we are in comparison to everybody else.
Right.
So we're not recommending right now, this is just phase 1 of the plan on where we need to go and where we need to be. That's the elected officials, but
So
just
in-
kind of want to show you where we're at.
In 2022, the township's parks budget, this was a full year, parks budget was just a little under $400,000. Washington Centerville Park District was almost $7 million. Again, they have dedicated levy and other funding sources, but again, just regional comparison, a lot of times people will inevitably compare us to our neighboring park districts, and they'll say, well, I don't often go to that park, I go to this park, and they kind of perk up and get excited about it, but there's sort of a correlation there of some of those amenities and features. They certainly have a larger amount of acreage, so their dollars spent per acreage is sort of a linear mode, but they have more acreage and far more expenditure. We compared ourselves as well to Washington Central Park District is sort of an anomaly, being a park district, but looking even at other townships in the area, we went a little further south into Deerfield Township, Westchester Township. Again, they, looking at a graph, and I wish I would have put it in this presentation, of acres managed to dollars budgeted. We are certainly far in the corner of that. Washington Park District is way up in the top, kind of a outlier, but again, we're sort of out of whack. So as far as the NERPA median goes, they are pretty far above the NERPA median. They're about 113, I think, per capita. So
Okay.
certainly the higher end of that. And then again, then kind of pulling back to that, looking at funding sources at a sort of macro level. This is not at this point necessarily a recommendation for any of them, but we try to search far and wide for ways that other communities have used other more sort of creative supplemental funding sources to work in their park system. So again, these are all items that that township staff has either utilized, is trying to utilize, or is hoping with adequate staffing levels can dedicate more time to. But again, a lot of these are not items that necessarily cover things like operations and salaries, but it's more one-off type expenditures. So gathering all that information, the goal is to go to the public. We used a couple of different inputs to gather what we called the planning process. First, community engagement, and second, best practice research. We've showed a lot of what the early best practice research was, just looking at parks from neighboring communities, similar jurisdictions, just asking them, you know, how did you go about getting this park set up? How'd you fund this? What's your budget? You know, a lot of that work. And then larger studies, national agencies like NERPA, looking at those statistics. But we wanted to engage our community specifically. We had several surveys that we pushed out, trying to do very interactive mapping, concept plan engagement, trying to get direct feedback. A lot of that feedback pretty drastically changed some of the items that we recommended at the park level, individual park level, but at a large scale, got a lot of great confirmation that the direction that we were moving, the validation of people want great parks. They want to be able to get there. They want to go bike. They want to be able to get there from their house. They don't want to have to drive and then bike from someplace. You know, they want that in their community. So again, between the community comprehensive plan back in 2022 and this plan, one of the key elements that we keep seeing is people like trails, people like parks, and they want great amenities within their community. So finally, with the feedback from the community and the research that our staff spent a lot of time gathering, we moved to the plan findings and recommendations. There are 5 broad topics that the recommendations are broken into. We have parkland, accessible infrastructure, park department operations, financing, and community engagement. Each of these broad categories have goals, objectives, and strategies, goals being the most broad vision statement. What do we want to be? Objectives are actionable, you know, we can arrive here, and then strategies being, okay, how do we arrive there? So you'll see those sort of different levels, the hierarchical view of how to accomplish this plan. And again, many of these items will be, once we're all on the same page, we're all moving in the same direction, there's still work to be done on some of these. We certainly need to finalize some information, bring it back to the board for validation, verification, and continue to move formally in that direction. So we'll quickly go through these. There's a lot here, so I'll try to keep moving. But generally for parkland, the goal is that we will maintain an expansive network of community park space, expand park areas to service a greater portion of the community, and support and cooperate with regional park partners to provide active and passive recreational opportunities. I think that is a statement that was very well validated through surveys. People agreed. You know, we have great partners in our region, Five Rivers Metro Parks with Cox Arboretum and Medlar View, Miami Conservancy District. We have other groups that we want to continue to work with, as well as other jurisdictions, to make a great park network. Parks don't really know a boundary. People can go to any community to enjoy their parks. We want to make sure we're working with people to provide consistent amenities and not duplicate amenities that are right next door for, you know, no reason. So objective 1A, looking at park concept plans to guide installation of new features and amenity in our parks. I'll quickly flip to these, but our staff put together a series of, again, very high-level, sort of aspirational concept plans of the types of features and amenities that we should be putting in our parks based on their park service level. We can get into that in a minute, but generally, parks are broken up through this plan into neighborhood parks, sort of the smallest, very local engagement, community parks, larger scale parks, but maybe not having the same regional accessibility as regional parks. Again, the most highest trafficked with best access. So different amenities were based on the category of park, their intended service level, and access to the park. So looking at these plans, the goal is to guide future improvements by those types of improvements. Again, these are not necessarily final locations of anything or the exact engineered estimate. These are very high-level concepts, but utilizing these to move forward. Objective 1B, evaluating opportunities to expand the park network by growing existing parks and acquiring new land for additional parks. At a very broad level, this is looking at, it's leaving ourselves open as a township to bring new parks in either through new development, so 1B2. When new development occurs, how can we integrate new public space into that area or high quality open or green space? 1B1, land adjacent to existing parks become available. Do we look to acquisition of those properties for expansion of the park, whether that's for new features or trails? But again, just being open to that concept of, as we're continuing to improve access and accessibility to these parks, where do new parks make sense? And then finally there, rezoning all of our parks into park zoning districts. We have several of our township-owned parks like Zingle Park that is zoned for a recreational district. So zoning commission is already working on that. Objective 1C, will achieve park service levels where at least 75% of the township households will be within a 10-minute walk of a public park, acknowledging real impediments to pedestrian and bicycle travel. Again, this was an item that the next step forward from our current 63% is how do we find ways through either new accessibility means, trails or sidewalks, improve how quickly people can get to parks, or location of parks where people can get to them if they can't get there now. Goal 2, broadly accessible infrastructure. Again, trying to make sure that people can get to our parks regardless of their chosen mode of transport and will get there safely and free of barriers. 2A, looking at that objective, bridging gaps in existing pedestrian cyclist infrastructure is expressed in the future connections map. I'll go ahead and switch to that. One of the recommendations or one of the projects is the 741 path. So fortunately, we've already made a good step toward improving connectivity, as well as the Kingsridge Drive off-street accessibility. So again, looking at this map, it's taking our existing trails and our existing sidewalks and finding ways to majorly improve access through a couple of relatively small connections. They're very large and big projects, but how do we take our existing infrastructure and parks and make sure people can get there better, safer, and barrier-free? As well as a couple of those hashed, highlighted areas. The Dayton Mall is a big one. Looking at the Dayton Mall, it's hard to tell right now how we're going to get people through the Dayton Mall and off-street connectivity right now. It's a tough area, but we're affirming as part of this plan, we are going to be on top of this. We're going to make sure we have a heavy hand in how people can get around and safely get through the Dayton Mall area or to the Dayton Mall area. 2B, evaluate opportunities to expand the park network by growing, that's a copy. That is a copy error. Let me read the correct one. I know what that one is. 2B is update existing park facilities and amenities and install new facilities and amenities to achieve barrier-free accessibility for all park users. So the goal here is, again, taking a look at all of our park systems, making sure we're ADA compliant, making sure we're compliant with NERPA guidelines. We have a certified park safety inspector now, so we got to really step our game up and make sure we're meeting all of our requirements for safety through all of our amenities. But then again, looking at our park facilities chart to make sure that we are consistently installing what we intend. And then finally, partner with regional transit experts to develop an active transportation plan that expands on connectivity gaps highlighted in the Future Connections map. This is a classic plan within a plan. This is a next phase. Our staff started to look, as we were talking about trails and connectivity, we were getting down to like minute street corners and bus stops, and we said, okay, we're getting way too into the weeds. This is its own study that needs to, we bring the RTA in and MVRPC and other groups, but for now, let's keep to parks and trails. But there is an importance for making sure individual neighborhoods at a very small, minute level are safe as well. Goal 3, Parks Department operations. I'll turn this one over to John to talk about.
Goal 3, under the operations, Miami Township will adhere to the highest level of operational and maintenance standards to provide the community with clean, safe, and well-maintained parks. Again, this going off of the metric, our guys are going from park to park to park, and there may be times where we're not getting to trash cans in time, and they could be overflowing depending on the usage of the park over the weekend. So again, just having that clean, safe, operatable park for everybody to come and enjoy. 3A, establish a natural area maintenance plan to preserve naturally beautiful features within parks while reducing staff time that's dedicated to grass and lawn maintenance. For instance, just the concept plan, I'm going to use Miami View Park that was shown a minute ago. We have acreage there that's kind of unused currently. We can turn that into like a wildflower field, so that way we don't have to mow that, and it can just kind of maintain and give some visual aesthetics to that park. And we can do that at some of the other parks too, with different nature things. So again, I'm not going to get too into the weeds, but like 3A2 is adopt a standard criteria for elevating the optimal conditions for the success of natural areas in the township park. So we'll have this kind of a curriculum to follow and elevate our standards of operations. And then again, coordinate with some of our surrounding partners, Five Rivers Metro Parks and Miami Conservancy District for real-world implementation. Objective 3.B, finalize a staffing plan for Parks Department employees which details the optimal staffing level required to adequately meet the operational and maintenance standards for the park network. So we're going to develop this report based on phase 2 of the plan. It's phase 2 of the plan, correct? Once we adopt phase 1, and as we start to increase our emergency needs as far as our spend, and then get our parks levels from yellow and red up to blue, what does our adequate staffing level look like? So we're going to adopt that report and bring that before the board as well. 3B2, update the park's maintenance and operation annual schedule. So as we add wildflower patches, we're gonna create a template so that way we have guidelines to follow moving forward. So I'm gonna pass this back over to Alex.
Certainly financing, again, we've kind of hit on this, so I'll try to move through this pretty quickly. But again, looking at these grant opportunities is a major component of this plan, a major recommendation. But some of these one-time expenditures come forward, again, like John said, looking at what the needs are to staff some of those. But there are great opportunities out there to reduce the township spend to continue to improve our parks network. And then 4B, looking at that, again, cooperating with federal, state, and regional agencies, incorporating their guidelines into our process to improve outcomes. MVRPC does a lot of work with Complete Streets to ensure that people are getting places safely and effectively. And then secondly, looking at ADA compliant parks to make sure that, one, again, we're improving our equity and accessibility, but two, making us far more competitive for grants. And then 4C, developing an initiative to provide an avenue in which community members can donate or sponsor park programs and infrastructure improvement projects. This came about specifically. We had a request of, hey, we'd like to donate a bench, or we'd like to donate some of these other items, and we had to take a minute and go, okay, wait, how do we do that? What bench are we buying? Do they buy the bench and give it to us? Do we buy it? So, formalizing a process in which somebody could do that. And A lot of times they're very meaningful to people who use the parks and want to be a part of their success. So again, formalizing that process. And then finally, goal 5, community engagement. Again, at a very high level, this is making sure that people know that they're in a Miami Township Park when they're there. And second, knowing when things are going on, how to get to a park, and how to continue to drive a sense of community with our park programs and branding. So 5A, making sure that all of our current township logos are available in parks. Making sure that people know who to contact if there's something wrong at a park. Making sure, again, some of these items just to make sure that we continuously drive home, hey, you were in a Miami Township Park and we have pride over our park look through signage, wayfinding, and then quality park furnishings, receptacles, benches, drinking fountains, so on and so forth. 5B, develop a plan for improving awareness of available park amenities and inform community. This would be certainly working with Communications Manager Jill Drury. She does a great job of continuously pushing these items out, but looking for other creative ways to share our township events. And then there are two very important broad appendices in the parks plan. System character. This is the first step of identifying ways that we can improve the features and be consistent within our parks. So if you go to 2 different parks, like a lot of other districts do, you'll start to find familiar items and recognize very quickly, okay, I'm in this community's park and I know that there's consistent quality of materials. So finalizing this branding guideline document would be a second effort. There's a lot of work already done, but bringing that back in a consistent guidebook. And then again, Appendix B, this is where we very specifically lay out some of the amenities that are recommended in each of the different types of parks. Again, but also provide justification for why certain parks may not have certain amenities. One of the very small parks, when we said, well, hey, we'd like permanent restrooms, say, the service level is not quite the same as this park, so there's a reason we have a method. It's not random. We've adopted recommendations for which parks should have what type of materials. And then finally, we could be pretty quick on this, but I'll turn this over to John just for a minute here while I pass this out.
So, again, we're coming back to this chart that we discussed earlier. A lot of reds, yellows, and a couple of blues, but we put together a immediate improvement list. I'm not going to get into the numbers too much, but I just kind of wanted to explain some of the items on here that really represent our current condition of the parks. This was done through a SWOT analysis and also a lot of feedback provided by the community during surveys. So we have just some general items that we feel are immediate improvements. Some of our grills have been in the parks for a long time and are not adequate to hosting family events at the park and cooking on. We do have some tree and hardscape installation to, again, touch on some of those operations. Benches, fall zone material is very important for the kids at some of these community parks, being in and around, so that way there's a soft fall approach. Our baseball diamonds are kind of in despair, and we want to improve those. And then going down to accessible ADA pathways, that is important for inclusiveness throughout our entire parks network. 8th Street Park, it's a little small community park, neighborhood park, I should say, I'm sorry. The gazebo is falling apart, so we need a shade structure, I'm sorry, I'm kind of tongue-tied a little bit tonight, but and also a parking lot installation with an ADA path. But we are, on this park specifically, we are pursuing CBDG grant funding for the parking lot installation and the ADA path, but I just wanted to make sure that was mentioned. Cromer Park, the playground is not safe, so we have that in there, and then also tennis court removal. It's in dilapidated condition. Again, this is in our concept plans that are in the Parks Master Plan. Miami View Park, the playground was installed really close to the pond, creating a safety issue for kids running around the playground. So it would be to remove and relocate. I mentioned that the lighting at Miami View, we have 13 pole lights. We only had 2 functioning properly last year around the pond. That is a safety issue. So this is a budgeted item that we are actively replacing with a joint effort led by our Parks Department and our Building Maintenance Division. So I just wanted to mention that that is actually in progress. So we should have all the lights working correctly here real soon, and they will be transferred over to LED to reduce some of the electrical costs that's going on at that park. Also, the shelter door needs to be replaced. It's rusted through. Layer Park, the roof is beyond repair. Storage doors are rusted and kind of dented in, and then swing set replacement that needs to be relocated as well. Now, they correct me if I'm wrong, Rex, but didn't they keep the original swing set and kind of move it? So when that EPA came in and cleaned up our park, that was the one item that they kept that needs to be taken care of and addressed. Moving on to Cranes Run, the north shelter is it's in despair as well, and the south shelter we found it's in good condition, but just the roof needs replaced. And then we have a lot of park attendees that ride their bike or do recreation along the Great Miami Trail River. So we had a shade structure there over our water fountain. It collapsed due to a tree that fell, so replaced that, add a bike hub installation, so that way all the users that ride bikes can repair their bike if necessary at that installation. And then drinking fountains, they need replaced, and then Waldrew, just a drinking fountain and bike hub installation for connectivity. But this is our immediate need list to clear a lot of the red off of the existing inventory conditions and start bringing it up to specifications. So I think we'd be happy to turn it over to the elected officials, see if there was any comments or suggestions. Before I do, I'd really like to just take a minute and thank the community development team for all their hard work, and also the Parks Department for your hard work in helping community development come to fruition on this plan. But I'd like to turn it over to the elected officials and see if you have any comments in this work session.
I, again, just want to thank you and give the whole team kudos on what is very thoughtful and very appropriate, given that we're spending citizens' money on these issues to detail the level of needs, comparative resources that we have in comparison to other organizations and other park systems, and then again focus this on what do our residents need and how do they get there. I think that the effort is nothing short of astounding, and anytime this is a useful document in terms of how we go forward, as you mentioned, whether it be township funding, grants, or other items, to have this level of understanding and in-depth knowledge regarding our assets and resources. The question that I would have for you, in part as we go forward, is whether any of our neighboring park systems are doing similar efforts such that buying or anything along those lines can be group buying or shared buying, that sort of thing can be collaborated with, to where maybe we get some price improvement through trying to drag them along or see what stage they're at. Because if they're out there going for similar resources, we might be able to improve some of this through collaboration with our own park system.
We will definitely check into that. I do know that a lot of the pricing that we did look into was state contract or procurement, so we're trying to stay along those guidelines.
Yeah. I was thinking in a parallel vein with him, and we need to look at cost. I suggested we put down that we look at cost between us and Washington Township, and see, if they're getting the same stuff, some cheaper or some other, cost savings ideas that we could share. So I did want to ask on this summary page, just of the total allocation, is that money we have budgeted for already, or is that money that's not budgeted that you need?
This is there are funds available to cover some of this. This projected number was just a quoted immediate need to help bring some of our safety items that we have addressed and other items that the community has addressed to get us up to, on this inventory chart, out of poor condition to
To
good
clear
condition.
the reds, I think you said,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so how much do we have budgeted for this year out of this, do you know?
The only thing that we have budgeted out of this specifically is the lighting replacement that is actively underway at Miami View Park.
Okay.
So that's why there is no dollar figure there. But
Oh.
I will be happy to send you the dollar amount that we had budgeted and what the cost is for the lighting. If I'll
I
send that
was
to you.
looking at how much you need to get your 1 million goal. Here.
We don't have necessarily some of those items budgeted, but when we did a earlier review with the board regarding the American Rescue Plan funds, we came up with some broad allocations projected for those funds. We've received a little over $3 million. We had allocated at that time a little over $500,000 for park improvements through the American Rescue Plan funds. So again,
Okay.
we do have some additional funds within that pot of money that we can potentially move around depending on how some of our final needs and allocations go this year. But that's part of the reason that we wanted to get this Parks Master Plan completed so that we could get a good, strong idea of the immediate needs, as Mr. Schweiker put it, and then determine how we want that final allocation of the ARP funds to be resolved.
So what's our process on this, on the allocation of the rescue funds right now? You said we can still move money around from,
Well, ultimately, that will be probably a subsequent discussion with the board on terms of specific allocation that we want to make on some specific projects for
do we,
those funds.
do we have that set up, Chris? Do we have a schedule for doing that?
The schedule for,
Doing the allocation of the funds?
well, that's going to be subsequent following this meeting. That's where we want to get the feedback from this meeting in
Oh,
terms of the
okay.
overall plan, so.
Okay. Thank you, Chris.
Yep.
Thank you.
So it's a very well thought out plan, very thorough. And I'm guessing that any questions I might have, you guys have already thought through it and decided this is the best path forward. There's certainly items on there that I think are critical for parks being usable, like replacing the grills. And there are a few other items on there I saw, so I'm glad that across the board we're doing that to keep all the parks going at the same time. Was there any consideration given to focusing, putting more focus, and maybe this plan does maybe that's what this plan's doing, kind of simplifying down some parks while you put the focus on other parks while you build them up and prioritize, basically? Was that
Sure.
part of it?
Yeah, I think one of the key objectives was to look at, again, some of those neighborhood parks and find out what are people truly doing there, which most of the time it's they want a safe place for kids to play on a playground and they want some picnic tables. They often are very simple. So certainly I think we tried to scale back a lot of those parks on what would be sort of the community or regional park amenities and trying to focus those, like you said, into those larger, more traffic, more accessible parks. And trying to make sure that then those have the sort of highest quality, most accessible, there's plenty of parking, and try to make sure that access goes along with the features that are typically more sought after. So certainly agree with that. And one other item, just to be very clear, I think with all of these park concept plans is they're not meant to be, not meant to prohibit other additional projects. I think that's another element. We very publicly submitted an application for funding for ADA accessible fishing docks in 2 of our parks. So that's a type of project that is such a big ask that oftentimes we will go and try to find other funding sources for that. It's not a very reasonable ask at a local scale, but when you're asking at a macro level, funds can be found for that. But yes, I certainly agree with you. I think we've tried to be very clear about focusing improvements at certain park types.
And do we have the level of traffic in parks that we expect? Do we wish there was more? Do we think there's too much somewhere?
I would say that the neighborhood parks are probably about what we would expect. Regional parks, a lot of time, we've pushed like Cranes Run and Waldry Park to that regional layer, where a lot of the traffic is driven from bike paths. We have counts from MVRPC where they've done bike trail counts, and I think the opportunity to grab a huge portion of our population in that park by providing amenities tied to that. Again, looking and leaning toward the strengths of what already is there, I think is a big opportunity, like our fishing ponds, bike trails, Miami View, coordination with schools, direct access by neighborhood, but it's a large area. So, I think to your point, I think we would like to drive some of that traffic to the more regional parks. I think more traffic is good. I mean, I don't think we're hurting.
Yeah, more traffic is definitely good. I would say that if you happen to go by, Cranes Run on a weekend, that's a very heavily used park. And in fact, in the concept plan, we have been in great discussion about the south parking lot almost needs to be extended. But we're trying to keep in mind, how to be fiscally responsible about it. Is that stuff that we can prepare in-house and then come in at the end, but I don't think that's on the immediate need list. That's stuff that we can do in phase 2 and like maybe a 2 to 5 year plan. So the immediate list, going to your point, was just things that we saw were kind of a critical need, safety items, other issues. How can we spread some of the love out to different parks and bring a lot of the red up to blue, basically a lot of the safety items up to better condition, and just create more of an immediate improvement standard to our parks operations. But to Alex's point, Waldry and Cranes Run are heavily used, especially on the weekend. It's a good recreation. Bike paths help a lot. We do have a lot of rentals for shelters throughout various parks, some neighborhood parks, which is good, and we recommend that. So we love our community using our parks as much as possible. Yeah.
Glad to hear that. Any other questions from anyone? This is the end of the presentation.
Yeah, I would say just very quickly to conclude, I think our goal is to, the next regularly scheduled meeting, May 21st, bring this plan back for formal review. In that interim, if the elected officials have any questions or concerns, we'd love to sit down and talk. We will be posting the full draft plan on our website, pushing that out on Facebook and some other areas, just so the community has another opportunity to view the full draft in addition to what we've already put out. But the goal is to bring it back for adoption and get us moving on getting some of these things done.
All right, great. So I now motion to return to the regular session. Can I get a second?
I second.
Aye.
Mr. Posey?
Aye.
I now motion to adjourn into executive session for the purpose of conferences with an attorney to consider the dismissal or discipline of a public employee or official, or in the investigation of complaints against a public employee, official, licensee, or regulated individual in accordance with Ohio Revised Code 121.22G1. When we're done with, we'll be going into another room for the executive session, and we will not be coming back. I don't believe we'll be coming back here. So I now so
I second the motion for executive session.
thank you.
Mr. Culp?
Aye.
Mr. Posey?
Aye.